Welcome to the Scoop Order. Happy Eclipse Day. Happy Monday. National Championship is tonight. Mild shocker. Dallan Hayden enters the portal a week before the spring game. What does that mean? How do we survive? Does it affect anything? Are we worried at all? Will he be the last? Likely not. But we're going to get into all that in. We're going to take your questions. As always, we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys had a great weekend and a great Eclipse Day. That was actually a lot cooler than I thought it would be. Families out there, we took a look. We had the glasses on for the little 5-minute period. We'll none of us ever see one again, so it was kind of cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Put it in the comments. I want to know, what do you think of it? Was it overhyped? Was it crazy? In Ohio, it was nuts because people were renting out Airbnbs, and there were more people at the Indy 500 or around Indy than the Indy 500 for the Eclipse today. So kind of a weird event. I didn't think it'd be this big of a deal, but it's a pretty big deal. But if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Just so you guys know, getting close. Saturday, April 13th, Buffalo Wild Wings first ever Scoop Spring Game tailgate will be in effect at 9 a.m. to 11:30. You guys can waltz over the stadium for the noon kickoff right afterwards. I think it's going to be a special day. I think we have a ton of RSVPs on BuckeyeScoop.com. All of you are welcome to join us from the podcast from BuckeyeScoop.com. Show up, have a good time. The crew will be in the building. I think it's going to be a blast, and I can't wait to meet a lot of you. I think it'll be really fun. We'll have name badges. It'll be an absolute blast. So looking forward to seeing you guys. But first, welcome back to the great Nevadabuck. Nevada, back in the building. Dallan Hayden hits the portal. Dallan has probably been the most mismanaged player I've ever seen in the history of Ohio State football in the 30 years I've been around it. What are your thoughts on Dallan entering? I feel like it's a massive screw up by Tony Alford, jerking this kid back and forth, red shirt, not play him, save him. Now he's gone. What are your thoughts on Dallan Hayden hitting at the transfer portal?
Weird. Just a weird situation all the way around. Might be one of the weird. I won't say it's the weirdest, but I can't think of a weirder handling of a player since I've been covering Ohio State football. What they were doing with him just never made any sense. It wasn't, it wasn't logical. It didn't, follow any kind of development train that really, could reconcile with anything for me. So I've always, thought it was kind of a weird one. Having said that, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a big loss because I don't think it's a big loss. I think Dallan's a great kid. I think Dallan's done a credible job when he's been in there. But you can find guys like Dallan Hayden, all the time. He's a guy, nice kid, nice player, but I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that it's a gigantic loss that he's Travion Henderson or he's Quinshon Judkins or frankly even James Peoples. If James Peoples left, to me that'd be a bigger loss than Dallan Hayden. I just feel bad for Dallan because when he got a chance, he played well, and they just kept jerking him around and kept red-shirting him and gray-shirting him and holding him back. And I just never understood what their plan was for Dallan. I don't think they had a plan. Just another hallmark of the Tony Alford era, just questionable rotations and playing decisions. We've talked ad nauseum about Master Teague over Trey Sermon, Master Teague over Trey Henderson, but the Dallan Hayden thing was equally egregious. So I really do hope that he goes and finds someplace to play and does well as long as it's not Michigan. And if he goes to Michigan, then he'll be dead to me. But if he goes anywhere else, I'll root for him and wish good things for him, and I'm sure it'll all work out for him. But it's odd, super odd.
Yeah, it's really odd, and again, in an era where we should be recruiting 3 and out, first round type running backs. I just don't understand redshirting a running back. I really don't. The last one that played for us was Boom Herron. That was 13 years ago. These guys don't need a redshirt. If you have to redshirt a running back, he's not good enough to play at Ohio State. And the good thing is now is this should lock in James Peoples because James is gonna have a role this year. He's gonna be the third running back. Again, in modern college football, guys get hurt. The last 2 years we've seen running backs, we've been down to that third guy in big time games. Again, Dallan Hayden saved our bacon as a true freshman against Maryland, and then they put him in mothballs, which I thought was just impossibly stupid by Tony Alford. Again, it shows the lack of awareness, and it really shows why he was never promoted to be anything other than a running backs coach. That's why Urban Meyer told Colorado State's administration not to hire Tony Alford. That's why they went with Steve Adazio over Tony. Tony's an alumnus there, interviewed for the job twice, wanted the job more than anything in the world. They turned him down twice because there's just not much going on upstairs. And I think that that's one of the things that is going to be a big benefit. No matter who we hired instead of Tony, he'd do better than this. And then, Dallan Hayden had been lied to multiple times by Tony Alford. They had a plan to redshirt him, and it'll be a long part of the plan. And then, the hard part is if you're Dallan, it's like, you got to go get yours, dude, because guess what? I'm sure that part of the, hey, you'll redshirt 2 years in a row was that Trey Henderson would go pro after 3 years, and then he'd be the 2 back or the 1 back. And then Quinshon shows up. So all of a sudden, you're probably the 3 at best, if not the 4, because I think James Peoples is much more talented than Dallan, but I think Dallan's a great kid. But again, I just think that in the world of Ohio State football, I always like arcing Ohio State to being like, you guys go on cruises all the time. You guys have seen the big cruise ships, like the Royal Caribbean's got these gargantuan, like the big cruise ship now is like the size of a city. Like, that's what Ohio State football is. If one person jumps off the side of the boat, and it doesn't matter if it's Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, Woody Hayes, Dallan Hayden, Troy Smith, whoever, it keeps moving, and nobody notices that it's gone. And that's what Ohio State football is. Ohio State football, if someone is seemingly irreplaceable, they get replaced at warp speed. Like we lost Urban Meyer, Ryan Day steps in. We lose Woody Hayes, Earl Bruce. I mean, that's just how I've always looked at it. Like when we lost Mike Doss, 3-time All-American, how are we ever going to survive losing Mike Doss? Dante Whitner steps in. Will Allen stepped in, was an All-American the very next season. So I think it's just another cog. And again, I've said it a million times. In Nevada, I know we talked on the phone earlier for about 40 minutes. But the thing I've said ever since the portal's depth is an illusion. That's why we had some impossibly stupid posters that used to be on Buckeye Scoop that we've exiled and terminated that would complain about tackle depth like 3 years from now. And I'm like, guys, like the only year I care about is this year, 2024. That's it. I don't care about 25. I don't care about 26, because guess what? We could lose 3 or 4 O-linemen in the portal. I'm not saying that we're going to, but you always have to be on the lookout for that, because, these kids all want to start. And some of these guys are going into year 3. They're second on the depth chart. They could go start at probably 90 other schools in the country. So, things can change. And I think that that's why, people stress out about losing a backup. And I'm like, guys, this is welcome to 2024 college football with the transfer portal. Like there's always going to be transition on the bottom. The middle tier and the bottom of the roster is always going to be in flux, because those middle tier guys can go in middle tier. I mean, like backups, high-end backups, they can go start somewhere. And not only can they go start somewhere, they can get paid a sack of money. So, re-recruiting these guys after the spring game and through the spring portal is going to be really critical for Ryan Day and his staff. And again, that's why, like, if you had really good roster management people, and I'm not sure if we do, that's something that they should be able to gauge. And, if we're on point, our guys should have seen this coming. They should have seen the smoke coming that Dallan might be unhappy. Again, he gave an interview last week where it was almost like, he needed to take a Zoloft or a Xanax right afterwards. It was so bad. And now he's gone. So, but Nevada, like, what are your thoughts on, like, with modern college football? Like, I know some people get upset over stuff like this, but I genuinely don't care because I feel like, we'll probably get another depth piece in the portal at tailback. And then, with the rest of our guys, I just think that we'll be more than set with this roster.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll care if it's somebody that matters. I mean, I'll care if Quinshon Judkins, rolls out there tomorrow and says he's transferring back to Ole Miss or transferring to Michigan because he wants to be closer to home. That I care about that, but it's hard for me to care about spare pieces for guys that are, on the depth chart. I wish them all well. I completely understand it. You and I've talked about this many times. I have kids that are athletes, and if they go somewhere and they're playing behind somebody who's a transcendent talent, they're not going to see the field. there's nothing wrong with going somewhere else. With Joe Burrow, it worked out pretty well. I've said many, many times, Joe Burrow would be selling cars in Athens, Ohio right now and said he's going to make $1 billion in the NFL, all because he transferred. So these things generally work out the best for all parties. The kid gets a chance to play. Ohio State frees up a roster spot, and everybody goes on, and celebrates life. But I think this is just one of those ones where I wonder, though, if Ohio State knew about it, because they did roll them out for media availability. So when you typically roll kids out for media availabilities, it's generally kids that you think that are going to be around the program. So that seems to indicate to me that they didn't know, because I was wondering about the whole UMass kid situation. Was that kind of Ohio State's way of knowing that that Hayden was on his way out, and this is kind of the spare piece that kind of replaces that? But then I look on the other side and say, man, Ohio State just rolled him out for an immediate availability. Not quite sure that reconciles with that. So, this is unfortunate, but it's a casualty of the game that we're playing in right now in 2024, with instant free agency, with the portal, with the ability to transfer on demand. And this will not be the last kid that'll leave this year. It won't. And that's not saying it's going to be some big scandal or, wholesale leaving, because I don't think that's going to be the case. But it'll be more than one, that's for sure. And it'll be somebody else that's not seeing an immediate path to the field. Maybe they feel like they've been misled, or maybe they feel like they've got a better offer somewhere else. But this definitely, it won't be the first, won't be the last. And as you said, Ohio State will survive, thrive, and move on.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be fascinating to see who jumps after the portal. I mean, I think that, with Dallan, I'm sure that he's not practicing this week. I'm sure he's obviously not playing in the spring game this week. I'm sure that he's protecting himself, because why would you risk injury playing in a stupid spring game when you need to be healthy to go get your portal offers and your NIL deal? Honestly, it'll be interesting to see if anyone else jumps in before the spring game and they don't want to risk an injury. But, again, this is just modern college football. This is like your favorite, any of your other favorite teams, college basketball, NFL, NBA, NHL. Like, when the season's over, there's always transition on the roster. Your college football has always kind of been built into graduation and early entrance into the NFL draft. But now guys can leave early. And again, I don't fault kids that go and want to play. Again, I always felt bad for the kids that were on the roster at Ohio State who genuinely wanted to play, but they weren't good enough at Ohio State, or they got passed over by someone younger and they were kind of stuck. At Ohio State, when I played back in the Stone Age, like, if you transferred, the only way you could immediately be eligible is if you went in 1AA. So you'd have to go to Youngstown State or Delaware. And most guys, you don't want to leave. Ohio State is that's the cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. That's the win. That's the high end place. Like, you don't want to go down to, a 1AA school. And there's nothing wrong with playing 1AA, but once you've been accustomed to the livelihood of being at Ohio State, you've been on campus, you get all your friends, like, it's hard to go down, if it's an ego hit or whatever. And some guys have done it. Like, again, Joe Flacco is a famous story. He left Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Panthers couldn't beat out Tyler Palko. He goes to Delaware, and the rest is history. It turns into a first-round pick and made, $250 million in the NFL. And if he would have stuck behind Palko, who knows? He probably never would have played anywhere post-college. But, if I was in a situation where I was stuck behind freshman Orlando Pace and freshman Corey Stringer, and I couldn't play guard or whatever, I would have thought about it, just because, again, like, everybody wants to compete, everybody wants a chance to play, and everybody wants to play in the NFL. So the only way you play in the league is if you go put out film. And Dallan's not young. This is year 3 now. And again, you go back to Ezekiel Elliott. When Ezekiel was in year 3, he was projected as a top 10 pick in the draft. Dallan Hayden's not even on the radar for anybody yet. He's played in one game, basically, where he had a huge role, and he had a little bit of a role last year. But it's just not overly concerning to me. And again, I think that this is where, we've got 7,000 people in our roster management department at the WAC now. So they better go dig around and find a running back, and you better find some replacements, because if you lose a guy, you better try to replace him with somebody who probably won't be as good but you need enough depth to get through the season, and that's kind of what these guys get paid to do now. That you're the 7,000 pro personnel, roster management, general manager people in the Woody, because they don't have any real role in recruiting anymore. Recruiting high school kids now, it's all about evaluating portal kids to backfill this roster. Got a ton of super chats. Appreciate you guys. Super chats are going into Pay It Forward. Really big week. Really excited to see a lot of you guys. Adam, thank you for the 5. Bringing my family from Iowa for the meetup and spring game. My girl's first time in the shoe. Also, any intel on how Jelani has been doing? Nevada OH.
IO.
Really excited about that. That's awesome. Gonna be curious to see who comes from the furthest distance for this meetup. Iowa is probably the leader right now. We do have some people coming from Florida, but that's gonna be really cool. Excited to meet your family, your 2 girls. Jelani is really coming on in spring from the people I talked to from Friday. I haven't talked to many people today, but Jelani, I think, has a real chance to be great. Nevada, your thoughts on Adam bringing his family from Iowa for the meetup, and also anything you've heard on Jelani Thurman through the first 3 weeks of spring ball?
Yeah, well, first of all, you're going to have a great time at the spring game, and the place to be for the spring game tailgate is going to be at the Buckeye Scoop event at Buffalo Wild Wings. Come early, get a spot, hang out with Burt Carton, wear your gear, and you might get a free beer. And yeah, that's gonna be a great time. As for Jelani Thurman, I've been hearing good things. And Jelani is as good as he wants to be. Jelani could be. I mean, he's got first team All-American type of talent. He's got play on Sunday regularly and earn a big paycheck kind of talent. He's just got to do it, and he's got to put it together. Still early in his very early in his career, and it's got a great chance at Ohio State, and I think he's making the most of it this spring. And I'm excited to see if he can continue it on into the summer, into the fall, and becoming a big impact player in 2024. Remember, he started the Cotton Bowl and was showing glimpses. And so I'm very bullish. I'm buying Jelani Thurman stock, and I think everybody else should too, because I really think the arrow's pointed up on him, and that's very good news for Ohio State.
Totally agree. Sloth Nation, thank you for the 5. Happy Monday, guys. Kirk, what do you think? What is your go-to wing flavor to order? I always get Desert Heat, but I always call it Desert Storm. They're really good, dry rub. Kirk, Nevada, what do you think, or excuse me, do you think the court ruling with the ACC versus FSU mattered last week? Nevada OH. I get Desert Heat. Nevada, are you familiar? I didn't know there was a ruling with the ACC and FSU last week. Did you see that?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I don't think it's really, like I said. I think things are going to be. It's going to be a negotiated settlement, and all they're talking about right now is a number. I think neither side really wants this to kind of go all the way. It's kind of when you get to that relationship point where you realize that both parties don't want to be there, and so now you're just kind of figuring out who gets the cat and who gets the silverware and who gets the Captain Crunch and everything else like that, because it's time to part. And I think that's where it's at with FSU and the ACC. It's inevitable. The split's not a question of when it's going to happen, or if. It's just a matter of when. And I think they'll come to a number, and I think that they'll come to a number relatively shortly. I'd say in the next 6 months, and then FSU to the Big Ten, calling it right now.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for that to get done. Ben G, thank you for being a Scoop Walsh member. Thank you for the 10. Hope the rotations improve this season. I don't think there's anywhere to go up on that one. How does that work? How's that work in game? Is it all position coach? Yes, it is. Or does the head coach ever step in and pull rank when it's a gong show? It's all the position coach. I mean, the head coach doesn't really have time to manage that. Unless he's a play caller and there's a specific play where he needs a certain guy in at a certain position. I think he just leaves all that to, Tony Alford, Larry Johnson, James Laurinaitis, Brian Hartline. The guys that are rotating. Obviously, the quarterback coach doesn't have to do anything. The O-line coach doesn't have to do anything. Tight ends to a degree. But Nevada, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the rotations will improve this season? And do you believe that the head coach ever has any yank to come into pull rank?
Well, I think the rotations are absolutely going to improve. been a point of emphasis, been a commitment from Ryan Day and from Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles on that this year. I really do believe them, and I really believe that they see the benefit of it. So I absolutely think that's going to be something that improves. My understanding, and what I've been told, because I've asked this question many, many times to many, many different coaches, is the head coach can set an overall theme. And I believe that Ryan Day set an overall theme for guys like Larry Johnson, where he's like, I want our best out there. I want you to really limit the rotations, that kind of stuff. But, on a play-to-play, day-to-day, series to series type of basis, it is absolutely the position coach, because as you pointed out, the head coach can't sit there and go, I'm going to call the play, 25 dive, monkey, press left. And by the way, I want to have Jelani Thurman in, and I want to have Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes. And I want to have, it doesn't work that way. The position coaches are responsible for that. They send the particular guys in. They make those decisions for better or for worse. But I do believe that there's an overall direction and kind of idea of theme for the game set by the head coach. But the individual decisions are absolutely made by the position coach.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you just don't have, like, the head coach has so much going on. Like, if your position coaches aren't competent enough to run your rotation, then you need to fire them. Like, that's part of your job. The head coach can't be in charge of who's playing defensive tackle and running back, and that's just, if you have to control that, like I said, you should fire him. It's like you should have fired Tony Alford in December. But Ryan's learning a lesson. He's a young coach. When someone is inefficient and has a class where he doesn't sign a running back, like, you should probably just fire him, like, literally on signing day on the carpet. Deep Jack, hey, thank you for the 5. Driving up from Nashville for the weekend. Looking forward to meeting Scoop Nation. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for support as always. It'll be a really good time. I'm looking forward to it. Drive safe. God, we should do a meetup in Nashville. That'd be killer. But yeah, we're gonna work our way around the state of Ohio, I think, and do some of these. So I think it's gonna be a really, really good time. So I appreciate you on that. Sean Krutka, thank you for the 5. Dallan leaving will have a bigger impact in 2025 than this year. Got to assume he's following Alford. UMass running back mentioned still an option. I believe he is. I checked on that about an hour ago. Waiting for word back, but I think he is. I mean, again, if when guys get crystal ball from old dinky school like UMass, and he's from Warren Harding, like, there's obviously a big smoke trail between him and Ohio State, and it seems like he'd pick Ohio State, but for a senior running back to pick Ohio State after we have Travion and Quinshon, it seems peculiar, because there's no way this kid's better than James Peoples, but hey, whatever floats his boat. I don't know if Dallan's going to follow Tony Alford or not, just because, I think that Tony kind of led him astray for 2 straight years, but maybe that's his guy. I don't know. If he does that, he's dead to me. I'm sure he's dead to you. He's dead in Nevada. If he goes elsewhere, God bless him. Hope he does great. Hope he's like Sammy Maldonado at Maryland, because he had such a great career after he left Ohio State. So we'll see. Nevada, your thoughts. Dallan Hayden leaving will leave a bigger impact in 2025 than this year. Got to assume he's following Tony Alford. And do you believe that the UMass running back that we mentioned previously is still an option?
Yeah, I do believe the UMass player is still an option for sure. I do want to give a shout out on the Sammy Maldonado reference, because for you guys to remember that was back in the day when if you played one play, you burned your red shirt. And I believe Tressel burned his red shirt, right? He was like insisting to get in there, and he put him in and burned his red shirt, which is crazy now when you think about, you can play up to 4 games now, which is so different times altogether. As for Dallan following Alford, I would be shocked by that, but I was shocked by Tony leaving and going to Michigan. So, nothing in college football in 2024 is completely shocking anymore, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'd heard he was going to be heading closer to home, but you never say never. And with NIL, you absolutely never, ever, ever say never. So I'm not sure what's going on with Dallan Hayden, and I'm not sure Ohio State knew this was going on, but I'm going to definitely do some digging. I'll hit up Helping Technician hit up a couple other people and see if I can kind of find out exactly what did Ohio State know and when did they know it, and what do they think about his intentions, and I'll report back on that next couple days.
Yeah, and the running back is K-Ron Lynch Adams. So he's got a very long hyphenated last name. He's got one season left. Rushed for 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns first year at UMass. Says he has interest from Florida State and Ole Miss. Again, I don't know why on earth a guy who's got 1 year left would come here when he'd be no better than the number 3. I mean, he's not in the same universe as Trey and Quinshawn. So, but he could end up here, which again is great. But I just don't. I mean, he was being mentioned as coming here when we saw Dallan in the room. So, again, someone from the UMass like crystal balled him here. Obviously, none of us had ever heard of the kid unless you live in Warren, Ohio, and you saw him play at Warren Harding. Like, none of us ever had him on the radar because we're not usually looking for UMass running backs.
And Kirk, how's there even a UMass site? What is that, like 4 people that talk about UMass?
I have no idea, but there was someone that they must have a basketball site from when Marcus Camby was there or something. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, somebody crystal balled him to Ohio State, so it's got to be like someone that knows K-Ron's mom or dad or something, because like I never heard of the kid.
The UMass insider, like okay, we need an insider. We need an insider for UMass. It was like, what for what?
I mean, they probably have more traffic than some of the lesser Ohio State sites because some of those guys don't have any subscribers. It looks like.
Now, did I ever tell you that Billy Bano, the ex UMass coach, used to sleep on my couch in Las Vegas? Did I ever tell you that?
No. Was he next to Raleigh Massimino on the sleeping bed?
No. Billy was like a man. He used to get after it, and he was like the head coach at UNLV. And when he was sleeping it off, he'd come over to my house and sleep on my couch, which I always thought was just kind of hysterical that the head basketball coach there was sleeping on my couch. But Vegas does that to people, man. Vegas is a cruel animal, man. It can chew you up and spit you out. That's for sure.
Your boy Tarkanian there too. The whole crew.
Tark and Rolly were dinner at Piero's, but Billy was more personal. He was on the couch on the big black leather couch sleeping there.
They're just snoring, like sweating out,
sweating out. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, exactly.
Call the housekeeper the next morning. Oh God, I couldn't imagine. I won't do that to you. I'll sleep at least out on your porch. You can just hose it down. The big sweat stain is. Poohbeard12, thank you for being an Ultra member. Thank you for the 10. I don't think that a Hayden situation will happen again with Day in CEO mode. I hope not. Will Hayden see snaps in the spring game? I'd be shocked if he's still practicing. Also a bit off topic, but top 3 Wrestlemania of all time: Funky or Nevada? OH. Nevada. Has anybody ever seen you and Funky in the same place at the same time?
I'm not gonna. I'd rather not comment on that. My AI bot voice changer insists that I don't. That I go to my alter ego Funky Buck a couple times a year, and you guys have seen it. But I think people are on to me that Funky Buck and Nevada are indeed the same person. So the mysteries resolved.
Nothing will ever make me laugh harder than people think that you guys are the exact same person. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen, ever. I'm just saying, like, it's like,
yeah, I like I said, you guys, not getting to, I'm not going to try to delve into the personal life too much, but this week Nevada was at the USA Women's Hockey Championships, and it was a good week for the Nevadabuck family, and so I was glad Funky could fill in AI form. That was really fun.
People loved Funky. I mean, he's got a little bit of a cult following. I always tell people, like, when people ask me if you were funky, I was like, he's not really funky. I said it's kind of like, one of my 5 favorite movies of all time is Psycho, and so it's kind of like when Norman Bates dresses up like Mother. I was like, that's kind of like the Nevadabuck Funky relationship.
Well, aren't we all? End. We all are a little funky in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, we are. God, I love the movie Psycho. What a great movie. Okay, so I think, I don't know what Ryan could have done to prevent Dallan Hayden, because you're not going to turn down Henderson Judkins if he wants to come here to keep Dallan Hayden happy. Like, Henderson's much better than Dallan. Dallan's a very nice kid, but Henderson's a first-round pick. Like, come on. Like, if I was Johnny Q Buckeye still like back in '07 and you get a chance to get Joe Thomas or Jake Long to come take my spot, like Jim Tressel ain't turning those guys down. And I don't blame him. That's fine. That's big boy football. You know, Ryan knows this is a team he has to cash in. He got dealt 3 aces in video poker 100 play, got a nice cocktail going, got a nice reservation SDK going, and all he has to do is just don't hit the thing that makes you throw back the aces or anything. Just hit play, and you can win a national championship. That's where we're at right now with this team, this roster. So, and then if all of a sudden someone wants to do you a 4th ace, that's like getting Quinshawn and Will Howard and Caleb Downs. So you just got to pay me the money and hope for the magic card or the high roller or the super play or whatever, you know, whiz bang thing is the multiplier on your video poker machine. That's where Ryan's at right now. So Dallan is, you know, he's a 4 offsuit. You got to throw him back if you have to, and away we ride. And again, I would bet a decent amount of money Dallan's done practicing. He's probably cleaned his locker out. I don't know that, but I can't imagine if you're going in the portal, why would you risk tearing an ACL these last 3 days of practice? You know, Wednesday, Friday, and then spring game. That just makes absolutely no sense. Nevada, are you with me on that?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I mean, what Ryan could have done to avoid this is just, you know, be more involved in terms of the abysmal roster management and the way that they played him, and it didn't. But I just don't know if he was ever really a priority for them. He was a guy that was always the 3rd guy, always the 4th guy, always maybe even the 5th guy. And, you know, it was always going to be next year. Next year was always going to be the year for Dallan. And, you know, the way that it's going right now with the transfer portal, the way it went this year with Trey Henderson returning. I mean, Trey Henderson was no sure bet to return. In fact, we had said that we thought for sure he was gone. And Quinshon Judkins was a gleam in only the most optimistic fan's eye. So the chances of those both happening, you know, Trey returning and Quinshon coming, I mean, it was like the eclipse, something that happens every 20 years or whatever it is. And I just think he got caught up in a numbers game. And like I said, Dallan's a great kid, and you really wish him well, but sometimes guys are just better in front of you. And I think it's just one of those situations where there wasn't, you know, circumstances kind of conspired to keep him out of the starting spot. And he just got to the point where he's just like, I can't wait another year to see what happens here at Ohio State. I'm going to go try it out somewhere else. And I respect that.
And Nevada is, the final part of this question is, top 3 WrestleManias of all time. Are you a wrestling fan? Would you even be able to know this?
Well, I remember when I think it was like Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant was like the biggest. Well, that was like the biggest one of all time. I want to say Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik, which was like that was pretty amazing. Those are really the 2 biggest ones that I remember, like the main events at the WrestleManias. But I'm sure people reminded me of some other ones I'd remember. But I used to love. I mean, I was in the wrestling business per se. I did a bunch of home video work with World Championship Wrestling. Did all the interstitials. Did all sorts of stuff for World Championship Wrestling when they were the #1 wrestling product, even over WWE. But, you know, my interest has kind of waned in recent years, and I'm not as big a wrestling fan as I used to be. But I grew up loving wrestling, loved everything about wrestling. So, yeah, I'd love to hear other people's top 3s for sure.
Well, because a lot of people are saying last night was the best one of all time. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes, and they had like the Undertaker come out and The Rock. Like I thought it was good, but I'm not a modern day wrestling guy. Like I liked WrestleMania 10, and that was Yokozuna, Bret Hart. I mean, I liked obviously with 3 was that was Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. That's probably the biggest.
I mean, come on, yeah.
It's like
that's the biggest.
Slamming
that's the biggest
the Giant. Yeah,
that's the biggest moment in the history of wrestling.
Yeah. But I mean, it's weird. I mean, I just like modern wrestling just doesn't do anything for me. I mean, I'm just being honest. Like it's just it's kind of a snoozer because I don't think that the personalities are as great as they used to be. I think that their technical stuff is better, but I don't know. I think back in the day, the star power was much much higher. It's kind of like the NBA. I feel like the NBA used to be way better in the '90s, '80s because the star power was a lot more overwhelming than it is now. But that's just my opinion. All right, C Brown, thank you for the 5. Trey Henderson has been underwhelming, minus a few spurts. No durability, no vision, rarely breaks tackles, dances too much. Quinshon Judkins overtakes him for RB1. Nevada OH. Nevada, I'll let you take this one first. Do you agree that Trey Henderson has been underwhelming, minus a few spurts, with no durability, no vision, can rarely break tackles, and he dances too much?
Yeah, it's just a bad take. Look, I respect everybody's takes, but that's a bad one. The durability issue thing, I think is absolutely fair. I think it's a fair one with Trey, and I think that's the thing. The no vision, dances too much, or what? It's just silly. It's clear you're not watching what's going on out there, and you're reading stuff from the dumbest people on the beat, writing stuff on there. Trey Henderson is a freaking warrior, man. This kid runs so hard. He runs too hard. He's always looking for contact. Dancing? No, he's looking to provide violence to people every time he runs the football. And if you look at his statistics, statistically, he's been fantastic when other running backs haven't been. So if the offensive line or the offensive scheme hasn't been great, and I would submit the scheme has not been great the last couple of years, Trey's still been able to feast and done a great job. He's lost a lot of long runs, frankly, because our wide receivers don't block. And we broke that down. We did an entire video on that showing he almost housed 3 runs in the Cotton Bowl. Frankly, we probably would have won the Cotton Bowl had our wide receivers blocked it all, because Trey was gone 3 times and got caught by a defensive back that came all the way from the other side of the field because the wide receiver wouldn't even lay a screen on him. So I don't agree with that at all. Again, I think the durability issue is 100% in play, and that's fair game. But the other stuff, no, Trey's tremendous. He's a tremendous, tremendous back. And I think you're going to see him. I think him and Quinshon. Quinshon, I love Quinshon. I think Quinshon's a better yards after contact type of back. They're just different kind of backs. But Trey, in terms of just his burst and his speed, it's second to none. Second to none to anybody on this team. And so no, I don't agree with 90% of that take. But that's just me.
I got you. Well, I just Googled NFL drafts preseason projections for 2025 draft, and it's updated at the end of February, but they have Trey Henderson as the number 1 running back, 31st overall player, which is about right for a running back. Running backs don't really go that high, but that's still a first round pick. So Quinshon's 4. I think Trey's going to be unbelievable this year. I really do. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think that he's going to have a nice guy to kind of share the load with, and I think that's going to be huge for his longevity this season. But yeah, according to this site, again, this isn't the end all be all. They think Trey's going to be a first round pick, so it'll be interesting. But I think him and Quinshon will have similar statistics, because I think they're going to split the carries, and I think they're both going to be outstanding. Like I said, this is the best running back duo I've ever seen at Ohio State. So, as long as they both stay healthy, I think the sky's really the limit for what these guys can do. Ben G, thank you for the 10, and thank you for being a Scoop Ultra member. Appreciate you. How are the new hires fitting in? Are they putting Day at ease? Are you hearing Day has embraced a CEO approach finally? Carlos Laughlin's been here for about a week. So, I imagine he's still swimming a little bit and learning the scheme, but he's a dynamic guy, dynamic recruiter. Obviously, I'm sure he's excited and wants to put his best foot forward. So, and he's got the 2 best running backs in the country in his room. So, I think he's doing great. In terms of guys like James is killing it. I think you're going to see a big uptick in CJ Hicks, Sonny Styles, but especially CJ. I think CJ needed a guy like James to really teach him how to be a pro. Matt Uriani is a guy that obviously Jim Knowles loves. That's kind of like his Him and Jim Knowles are a lot like Ryan Day and Chip Kelly in terms of the mentorship and the trust factor. And I think that that's the thing that puts Jim Knowles at ease versus Perry Eliana, who I don't think has found a gig yet, or he's looking for a gig. So I think that they're going to be much better in the back end, even more coordinated than they were last year, just because Jim Knowles trusts him. And I think Griani is going to be a guy that's going to really help James learn and continue to understand the coverages. And I'm sure James has got a pretty good grasp on the defense. It doesn't take longer than a few months to learn a defense, and James is a really sharp, quick study. So, Nevada, your thoughts on how the new hires are fitting in, and do you think they're putting Ryan Day at ease in enabling him to embrace the new CEO role that he has?
Well, I mean, the big one's Chip Kelly. That, the unthinkable happened this year where Ryan Day gave up play calling, which was really his calling card. And the thing that was kind of his whoopee was calling the plays. He thought that was really important to him. And let me tell you what, he is at ease and is thrilled with this as people that around him say that he's ever been. And that goes for Chip Kelly as well. So I think this has been the perfect marriage of convenience where Ryan has gotten what he wanted out of it, which is the ability to have coordinators that he has absolute A-plus trust in Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly is getting what he's dreamed about for a long time, which is out of administration, out of a lot of recruiting, out of a lot of minutia that goes with being a head coach, fundraising, and now all he's doing is just scheming up offense all day, and that's what Chip Kelly loves to do. So I think it's worked out the best for both of them, and I think it's gonna reap huge benefits for Ohio State in 2024. In ways that we can't even conceive of. The stuff that we can see, the administration, the clock management, the game management, the rotations, etc. But all the fundraising, all the admin, all the organization stuff, all the cultural stuff, I think it's just going to get better and better and better. And people that are close to Ryan say that he's thrilled with how it's going down so far, and I expect it's only going to get better as we get into 2024, deeper into the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to have a lot easier time this year now that he has more adults in the coaching staff room, along with Tim Drebno, who I think is going to be a huge part of what we do on offense. W. Buckeye, thank you for the 5. Hayden would have been more successful with a better running back coach. Totally agree. Tony Michigan Alford was not very good. I hope to see everyone Saturday. I agree. I mean, I think that, again, you guys can call us haters or people can say that we don't like Tony Alford, but I thought he was really terrible at what he did for a living. I mean, I really did. I mean, we had a recruiting class for the first time in 100 years at Ohio State where we didn't take a running back. And our rotations were just asinine how bad they were. Again, Trey Sermon rotted on the bench for 75% of the beginning of the 2020 season. Trey Henderson, the very next year, didn't play it till the third quarter of the Minnesota game. It was just bad. There's no other way to say it. But I digress. Nevada, do you think Dallan Hayden would have been more successful with a better running backs coach than Tony Alford?
Well, yeah, and like you said, people can say whatever they want, or say, oh, you're just kicking on the guy because he left. First of all, I'm only kicking on Alford because he went to Michigan. That's the only. If he went anywhere else, honestly, we'd never even have a discussion about him. Secondly, I thought he sucked when he was here, and I told you guys that. So my views on Tony Alford have been well documented. They go back seasons and with very specific reasons, and you went through them. How do you sit Trey Sermon on the bench for Master Teague? And we were saying it at the time, and I was screaming it at the time, and I was getting yelled at because I'd be going, Trey Sermon is the best running back on the team. Oh, Nevada, no, Master Teague, restarting. And I'm like, guys, Master Teague's just a guy. He's a great kid, an inspiration. Will do well at the workouts, a combine warrior. But Trey Sermon is a beast at running back. No, he stinks. Oh, yeah. So, like I said, the Tony Alford thing, anybody is an improvement on Tony Alford. I'm excited about Coach Locke. We haven't really had a chance to really see his impact, but I'm very, very optimistic that it'll be better. But I really believe that anything was an upgrade over Tony Alford. So Yeah, it's a shame Dallan Hayden had to live through the Alford experiment, but it's over. The Ohio State nightmare is done, and now we can move on to real live coaching in the running backs room.
Yeah, and again, Dallan Hayden last season, just in case you guys weren't aware of it, he had 10 carries for 31 yards across the entire season, and that's with Trey Henderson getting hurt, Mayan being hurt, everyone being hurt. I mean, so Tony Alford gave carries to Xavier Johnson and Mayan, guys that I thought, I mean, Mayan's a nice kid, but I mean, come on, like he's not an NFL guy. He's not even an Ohio State guy. And Dallan wasn't good enough to play over him as a younger guy who, frankly, if you're trying to keep a kid out of the portal, I mean, Dallan. I mean, we've lost 3 running backs out of Tony Alford's room this session, like since the season ended. I mean, we lost Evan Pryor, we lost Chip Trainum, and now we're losing Dallan Hayden. So it shows you how much distrust there was in that room and how poorly managed that room was when everybody leaves. But again, it's just kind of is what it is at this point. But yeah, Dallan, a guy that had 10 carries for 31 yards isn't going to be someone that we're going to die from losing. Jacob Bear, thank you for the 5. Hey guys, watching from Portsmouth. Love Portsmouth, home of the river. We're going to go down to the river really quickly here. Just got my new massive shirt. It is awesome. I'm glad you like it. Again, that shirt is my favorite shirt in the world because literally people laugh because I always use massive in the title of the YouTube videos. And I was like, you know what? We're going to put that on a shirt. That's going to be our new signature word on BuckeyeScoop.com because I like it. And everybody else liked it because we sold a ton of those. So we appreciate you guys rocking the massive shirts. I'm glad that you think it's awesome. And I'm glad you're going to be at B-Dubs on Saturday. I can't wait to meet you. We'll have name tags for everybody since it's going to be basically everyone's going to know who I am. And then everyone else is just going to be screen names from the chat or from the message board. So we'll throw some name tags out and you guys can Sharpie them and throw them on so people know who each other are. So I'm excited for that. And I'm glad that you are getting your gear and you like your shirt. Scarlet and Gray podcast. Thank you for the 5. Why doesn't Nevadabuck show his face? Because he's like the Phantom of the Opera. He wears a mask everywhere he goes so that nobody knows who he is. Or he's like the Scarecrow from Batman. So no, it's just kind of his thing. So I tell people that. Dream at 2025 offensive line class. Do you know anyone that is racist? I don't think so. Go Bucks' favorite political leader. Nevada, why do you not show your face?
Well, because look, I'm the horseman, and I'm the helping technician, and I'm the oracle, and I'm Funky Buck, and I'm a bunch of different people. And so if you saw my face, then you'd be like, "Wait a second, that's Funky Buck," and it would just get confusing. So it's better just to be this way. And you know that when we go out to dinner, I wear a mask when we go out to dinner. So it's like it's just my thing. I don't like to be recognized, and I don't want to draw any attention to myself. So I usually wear a mask like Mr. Wrestling 1 or Mr. Wrestling 2, and I wear a mask and like a luchador. That's what I do.
Oh, I like that. Hey, I mean, I think that works. That's good for me.
Do you remember Mr. Wrestling 1?
No, I remember like Rey Mysterio. Is he one of those guys?
Okay. Nah, Mr. Wrestling 1 was like a guy. He used to always wear a mask, and it was just kind of for no reason. And I always kind of thought that was kind of cool. So I've been doing it since I was like 9 years old, just wear a mask everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, whatever floats your boat, I'm good with it. Dream offensive line class, obviously David Sanders is the top of it. Him and Carter Lowe at tackle. Maybe throw in a portal kid for good measure. On the interior side, it's a little bit tougher. Mason Short would have been great, but he's going to end up at Georgia. I'm just kind of looking through the list right now. I'll get back to you on the rest of it. I mean, I want the 2 tackles. I mean, that's all I really care about right now is tackles. And I'd like to just maintain who we have on our roster now, just in terms of, just in terms of, not losing too many guys to the portal. I think that for the O-line, depending on what we got, adding a guy from the portal doesn't really hurt. Again, this is my opinion. But the 2 tackles, like Carter Lowe and David Sanders, those are my 1 and 2 for the entire class, really. So, but that's my opinion. Nevada, I'm guessing you're going to be in that same boat just because I mean, those guys are the tackles are what everybody is obsessed over. Nobody really cares about interior guys, but those are the two guys we really need. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I just want to talk while we're talking about the offensive line. I just want to make a point because I don't want to go through this podcast and have this kind of get glossed over or something. Right now, Ohio State is playing Carson Hinsman at right guard and McLaughlin at center, and then they're flopping and they're playing McLaughlin at right guard and Carson Hinsman at center. And I don't think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people are kind of going, "Oh, McLaughlin's going to be the center, and maybe Hinsman goes to guard." They're rolling both those guys back and forth in that position right now. So I think that's a really interesting development right now for Ohio State's offensive line for 2024, because clearly they want to get Hinsman. They want to keep him on the field. They want to do some things. And I thought you made a great point today in pre-show. We were talking about the pre-show, and you're like, "Look, Nevada, what was by far our worst offensive line performance last year?" I'm like, Cotton Bowl, easy Cotton Bowl. He goes, "Okay, what was the major change that we made the Cotton Bowl?" "Oh, Carson Hinsman didn't play." Well, that shows you how good Carson Hinsman was last year and how important Carson Hinsman was to our line last year. Because the offensive line last year, we outgained Michigan at Michigan. We outgained them. We out first downed them. With this offensive line, against the Michigan offensive line that's considered the greatest since the 5 blocks of granite from Fordham and, the most unbelievable. Our guys outgained them. And that was with Carson Hinsman playing center. So I think they got to keep him on the field somewhere. I know they like McLaughlin as well, but I wouldn't be surprised to see those guys switch off there at center, and that's going to be a battle that's going to go into the fall because I'm not sure who's going to be the starting center. So if you're putting McLaughlin in there and writing off Hinsman, I'm telling you, don't do it. Mistake. That Nevadabuck is little thing. So it wasn't exactly responsive to the question, but I did want to get that out there. As for the question, yeah, I mean, Foster, Lowe, and Ali Luba. If Ali Luba could transfer to Ohio State, that would make me the happiest. But other than that, I think we have plenty of dudes in the room. I think we're fine.
Ali Luba.
Ali Luba's not coming. He's not coming.
That's what Fantoni said.
He's not coming.
Favorite political leader? I don't know. Who do you play as on Civilization is the real question, Nevada.
I like to play as Wu Zitan, like the Chinese leader, because
they got the paper mill or whatever.
Yeah, you got the paper mill and you got the Chuck-a-Luck thing that fires like
the Chuck-a-Luck is incredible. Oh my god.
Yeah, it fires like 3 crossbow things and stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah, that's of course he plays the most powerful civilization because why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
There's our favorite political leaders are based upon who we play as on Civilization. So
exactly.
For me, it's probably Peter on Civ 6, and on Civ 5, it's the same one that Nevada picks. China, they're ridiculous on Civ 5. So there you go. Tony, stop. Thanks for the 10. Osborne in the 90s used to practice with as many as 5 stations for maximum scrimmage reps. Seems to me that strategy preps the 2s, 3s, and 4s faster. Does OSU have room to do likewise? I don't think so. I think you'd wear the guys down too quick. I think that you got to rest them a little bit. I don't know what their scholarship limits were, but I feel like they used to do some sneaky stuff with walk-ons where, they had a much bigger roster than a lot of teams did. We did something like that last year with Philbin being there, but I thought it killed the O-line. I thought it made the O-line terrible to start the season because I didn't think there was any chemistry between the lines. But again, that's just my opinion. I don't think that they have room to do likewise. I think it's stupid to do likewise because, you can only do so many reps. And once you get to the point where you just run these guys into the ground, I don't think that helps, especially with how long the season is. But again, that's just my opinion. Nevada, Tom Osborne in the 90s used to practice with as many as 5 stations, which I'm guessing that means like 5 11-on-11 groups, which I don't even think you have the numbers to do that. I mean, we could barely have 3 offensive lines, let alone 5. Seems to me the strategy preps the 2s, 3s, and 4s faster. Does OSU have room to do likewise? I don't think they do. And I don't think you have enough coaches, even though if they drop the coaching role and they make every guy eligible for a coach, that could be much different. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, you'd have to change something. Nebraska was doing things with scholarship limits back then, and walk-on scholarships and granting aids to Nebraska in-state people and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I don't. I just don't think it's feasible to kind of roll that many groups. And as you said last year, we tried to do that. They were trying to roll on 2 different practice fields, and they were mixing and mashing guys, and it really kind of created. The offensive line depends upon cohesion and cooperation and knowing exactly what the other guys were doing, and they were dropping guys from the first team to the third, from inside to outside, playing all sorts of different positions, and we were hoping that it would be beneficial, but it turned out to be a mess, and it really took a while for the offensive line to start gelling, and I think that was probably the result. And as you said, right now, unless they changed the number of accountable coaches or expanded the number of scholarships, or you were able to offer more unlimited guys with NIL deals or something that weren't really scholarship players, I just don't think you could field enough groups and have enough capable types of reps or credible reps that would actually provide something to provide them with experience. But it's an interesting idea, but I don't know how feasible it is.
Yeah, especially with how long the season is. Like, I think guys would get blown out. You got to really watch these guys because the difference is but even Nebraska is the first team that really did weight training, but we train these kids year round, so their bodies don't get a rest. This isn't like back in the olden days where when I talked to the guys from the 70s, like Hicksy and those guys, they'd go home for the summer, drink beer, work at the construction yard. These guys were doing everything back in the day. And now it's we train year round. And I think that's the reason why a lot of these guys break down more. They're physically more coordinated. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, but they never get a break. So these guys, their bodies, they're blown out mid-season, and you got to really watch that. Steve knows loans. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. Is Evan Pryor good enough to transfer back to OSU? No. Nice kid, not OSU quality. Had the one spring game, but when he got in last year, he looked just like a guy. So I don't think you want to burn a roster spot on a kid like that. And I don't think a kid like that has any interest in coming back where he's going to be the 4th guy at best. Nevada, are you in agreement on Evan Pryor?
Well, Evan's one of those stories of what could have been, because let me tell you what, before he got injured, man, that kid was electric, absolutely electric. Was never the same after the injury, just did not have the same burst, did not run with the same reckless abandon, really had lost and that just shows you the difference between being great and being able to not being able to play is just a little bit of hesitation, a little bit less burst, a little bit, less explosion. But I loved Evan Pryor before he got injured, man. It's a shame because he may just end up being one of those stories of what could have been. But, prior to the injury, I'd say absolutely. That guy could play at Ohio State all day long. After the injury, it's not the same kid. So, I wish him well and whatever he does and wherever he ends up playing. But it won't be at Ohio State.
Totally agree. ZZM, thank you for the 10. Speaking of wide receivers, head and blocking has also been atrocious. Totally agree. Sorry, Cade, you too. Do we have the dogs, including Thurman? Can these guys be developed? Blocking needs to be a huge focus of camp. I agree. Our blocking has been terrible, and I think there's been some selfishness that's permeated the wide receiver room and the tight end room. And again, I know people say, "Oh, they all go in the first round," which is great, but they don't help in the running game at all. Now, I know that they're awesome and God bless them, but they could get their nails dirty a little bit. I can go show you some Santonio Holmes clips. Santonio went first round. Santonio is better than any of these guys that we've had recently, and he used to kill guys in the running game. So he's Super Bowl MVP, monstrous wide receiver, and he used to murder guys. Nevada, your thoughts? ZZM, whose book I actually purchased. Speaking of wide receivers, tight ends blocking has been atrocious, and he's including Cade Stover. Nevada, do you believe we have the dogs, including Jelani Thurman, and can these guys be developed? The blocking needs to be a huge focus of this camp. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the biggest thing is Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly does not accept it when wide receivers and tight ends do not block. Does not accept it. Unacceptable outcome for him. Point of emphasis for him. And so, look, everybody can block. Anybody who comes to Ohio State is a high Division I athlete, and they can block. It's just a matter of, are they willing to? Are they willing to put aside the fact that it's uncool to block? Are they willing to finish their blocks? Chip Kelly does not accept it if you don't do that. So I think the answer is a resounding yes, but it's not because these guys have grown courage or got more talented or got stronger. It's just because if they don't do it, they're going to be sitting on the bench because Chip don't play, and you don't become the number one rushing team in the country with substandard offensive linemen, DTR and Zach Charbonneau without your wide receivers and your tight ends blocking, and Chip will get it out of them for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that they need to change that culture in a hurry. Stephen Oglesby, thank you for the 20. Thanks for being a Scoop Ultra member. Alford, Tony Alford completely mismanaged that room. Hayden should have been a part of the rotation all along. I agree. I mean, I watched Mayan play, and I saw plays where Mayan would get the ball, and it looked like there's a ton of daylight. And, Mayan was either hurt last year or he's just the slowest running back I've seen at Ohio State. Because he looked like he had a trailer attached to his back when he was running. So, again, I thought Dallan was at least better than that. At least had fresher legs. But I agree that Tony Alford completely mismanaged the room. Nevada, do you agree that Tony Alford mismanaged the room and that Dallan Hayden should have been a part of the rotation last season?
I mean, yeah, 10 carries. 10 carries. That's just, yeah. And but I think that was kind of the hallmark of Tony Alford. And I always say, get mad at somebody when they, act outside of their norm, or they do stuff that's, different from who they are. But that's who he was. His rotations always were suspect. And he never seemed to really have a handle on what he was doing with that. And that's how it manifests itself, that a guy like Dallan Hayden could go in a year where we really want to kind of keep him engaged, keep him involved, show him the future, and he rushes 10 times for 31 yards. So, yeah, I definitely think that was definitely a Tony Alford mistake, and but not a surprising one because he did that his whole career here.
Yeah, I think it's on par with his work ethic and just being overall lazy. Mello, thank you for the deuce. I'm going to have to download the Josh Petty film. That totally slipped my mind. I had a lot of stuff going on today. So I will let me look for that right now, and I will start downloading it. I apologize for you on that. But yeah, I'll get you that for tomorrow, my dude. So I apologize. But thank you again for the reminder. Happy 2014. Thank you for the 20. Is it possible that Tony Alford wanted Dallan Hayden to play but was overruled by Ryan Day? Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? I don't think there's any way that was possible.
I mean, is it possible? Sure. I hadn't heard any of that. And, it would seem weird that Ryan would get into that level of detail. Like, hey, let's run Xavier Johnson or Mayan Williams or Chip or, any one of the other, number of running backs that we ran instead of Dallan Hayden. And every time they were asked, he was just, they were talking about this whole red shirt thing. This red shirt seemed to be really important to them to keep redshirting them. And, it never makes sense to redshirt a running back given the life cycle of running backs. Are they really going to play a fifth year for you or a 6 year? You just don't see many fifth year or 6 year running backs. So it never made sense to me. But again, that was par for the course with Alford.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it never made sense why you'd ever redshirt a running back in modern college. If you redshirt a guy, it's basically admitting that you missed on him. Because running back is the easiest position on the field to play, and there's not a lot of development that goes on there. I think it's more just having the right guys go. Lee McAllister, thank you for the 507. How much did it hurt losing Ted Ginn in the beginning? And also heard there was some difference of opinions in the locker room before the game. Losing Ted was devastating. I mean, obviously people say, oh, well, that doesn't make up 41-14 or whatever. But Florida didn't have one player on their entire team as good as Ted Ginn. Not that year. I know Percy eventually got to be that guy, but he wasn't that guy as a freshman. So there really wasn't a guy that Florida could have lost. Maybe, I mean, I don't think Chris Leak, because Chris Leak wasn't any good. He didn't get drafted. Um, but I tell people it would have been like if Florida would have lost Tebow in 2008 versus Oklahoma, or if Oklahoma would have lost Sam Bradford, or it's like when you lose like a Heisman top 10-ish type pick guy, it's devastating. And Troy was the best player on the field that day. Played 14 years in the NFL. I mean, come on, like what are you talking about? So, in terms of difference of opinions in the locker room before the game, I have no idea what that means. I'm like, and I'm not trying to be wise, but I just don't. I don't know. Um, I don't know what that means. Uh, um, Nevada, do you think in '07 did it hurt losing Ted Ginn at the beginning of the Florida game?
Yeah, well, look, that game has been one of the most misunderstood games by Ohio State fans for a long time, and there's always, people are always looking for some sort of a way to explain the unexplainable. How can that Ohio State team that was so great, lay an egg on the biggest, stage, and now you look at it and you look at the 36-day layoff and the emotional high of beating one versus two in the game, losing Ted Ginn. But people want to talk about In-N-Out Burger but the Troy Smith thing being on the Heisman circuit. That's always a thing. Heisman winners had traditionally underperformed coming off of that. Then there was the Gonzo Troy Smith girlfriend escapade, which you've kind of debunked because Tony, Gonzo didn't even have a girlfriend at the time, but that's a story that's gotten wide circulation. So it doesn't surprise me that they're talking about locker room dissension, because people are looking for reasons why that happened. And sometimes it just happens. It happens in every sport. Sometimes the wheels just fall off the wagon. You have that big return. Roy Hall breaks Ted's leg. And then Ohio State's, we stop running the ball and just kind of panic a little bit. I think the team panic. And defensively, let's be real, Kirk, you guys weren't going to stop them that day. Meyer could have hung 80 on you if he wasn't already looking for the Ohio State job and decided to call off the dogs in the second half, because your defense was kind of a paper tiger that year, in my opinion. And that's, I think you had some guys playing in the defensive secondary that probably wouldn't have played on a premier team. And I think Meyer could have named his score. That's my personal opinion.
I think you're right. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, again, I think Urban could have scored 80 on us that day. He didn't. And obviously, we sucked that offense. After we lost Ted, I mean, we lost our best player. So nothing went right going forward. Again, most teams in sports, if you lose your best player, you're not going to survive. Like if Purdue, if the 7'5" dude tears his ACL in the beginning of the game, like they're probably not going to beat UConn. They're probably not going to beat UConn anyways, with it being even up to 1 seeds. But you lose your best player, man. Like have a good night. Like you saw it with Houston. The Houston Cougars were a 1 seed. Their best player hurts his ankle severely, can't play, and they get rolled. So I just think that's just part of sports. Sometimes, if Mahomes goes out, I saw this year where the Browns played the 49ers and McCaffrey gets hurt, and I think Debo Samuel got hurt, Trent Williams got hurt. Like, I mean, just losing McCaffrey off the 49ers turns them into like a 6-10 kind of team, 6-11 kind of team. That's just life. I mean, it happens. The rumors that came out of that game were unbelievably funny. The Gonzo and Ted. I mean, Gonzo actually heard that from people that, did Troy really bang your girlfriend? And I'm like, Tony didn't have a girlfriend. Like, but somebody, whoever made that up, I mean, kudos to you, because that's an urban legend that has had legs for days. Because people still ask me that. The In-N-Out Burger thing was hilarious because I'm just like, guys, like, what do you think we eat? Like, we were poor college kids. They didn't like these kids now that have NIL money and meals at the Woody Hayes every day. Like, we ate McDonald's and Cane's. That was 95% of our diet for 90% of the team. So we weren't exactly eating whole grains and spinach and healthy food. We had, I mean, as college football players, we probably have the worst diets on this entire earth. So if you ever wanted to like get autographs from the guys, or if you ever wanted to like assassinate Ohio State football players, go to the McDonald's right next to the Woody Hayes back in 2005, and you'd see about 30 of us in line in our cars in the drive-through, getting our little bag of, terrible food and heading into the Woody Hayes and eating, a bag full of grease and cheeseburgers and fries. And, so it's like when people are like, oh, they ate It-N-Out Burger, and they felt like, dude, that's just what we eat. I mean, it's a bunch of guys from the hood. They ain't got no money. Like, we're not eating we're not going and getting, a vegan tofu hamburger from Whole Foods Mart for $17. We're getting like five burgers for $5, and that's it.
Now, you were driving your Mercedes like 600 S class through the drive-through there.
07 Honda Accord, and I rocked that thing. I pulled hotter chicks in my 07 Honda Accord than those guys that had their nice cars. So again, it ain't all about the car. Sometimes it's about having the smoothness. So this is what it is at this point. So, well, Nevada, I think we can wrap this thing up. Your final thoughts as we wrap this show up. And who you got tonight? I think UConn's going to throttle Purdue.
I actually got Purdue plus the point. I got Purdue plus 7, and I just want them to keep it close. I'm not saying they can win, but just keep it within 7. So I'm rooting on big old Edie or whatever his name is, 7-5 guy, to keep it close. If you're a gambler, Dagestan Poppy put out picks. He's got his picks behind a paywall now. If you want the early lines, but he'll put them out the day of the fights. So you wait till the day of the fights. He puts his whole card out. Swept the entire card again last week. So if you were an MMA bettor, had a chance to make some money, Dagestan Poppy's doing work. And if you want to do work for us, leave us a like. Helps other people find the thing. And come to the party on Saturday. It's going to be an unbelievable time. And wear your gear. You might get a free beer. Buffalo Wild Wings, 9 a.m., day of the spring game. Lane and High. We'll see you there.
Yeah, it'll be a blast. Appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys had a great Eclipse Day. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Another great show. It's a huge show because you guys made it one. See you guys Saturday. It's getting close. 5-ish days away. It's going to be a huge time. 9 a.m., nice and early, to 11:30. Then you guys can go to the spring game or head home. UFC 300s that night. The Masters. I mean, this is going to be an epic day of sports. So I'm excited to see all you guys. As always, appreciate everything you guys do. Again, thank you guys for leaving us a like on this channel. Those are huge for us. Thank you for subscribing to this channel and keep spreading the good word. Tell your friends. Share this on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, likes, comments. Those are all huge for us. Thank you. And also click that little alert bell so you can alert every time we go live. Shout out who you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. I hope that the people you've been watching with are showing up to the get together. Again, Buffalo Wild Wings, corner of Lane and High Street, right next to Ohio Stadium. Get there early. It'll be a blast. We were really excited about it. Can't wait to see you guys. So we'll be there in force, and it's going to be a great day. So with that being said, as always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. See you guys on Saturday, and we'll be back again tomorrow at 7 p.m. ready to rock. So as always, thank you. You guys have a great night. Go Bucks.